So now we've reached one of my favorite parts, which is how to be a good mentor. So one of my favorite exercises, I get to sit with who I think is a great mentor. And I'll give you an example of the way I was impacted by Pete and how he mentors. Is he had joined us for one of our monthly calls we were doing with mentors. And to hear a guy who had mentored for 10 plus years talk about, I have never heard that. And I loved learning that. And now I'm going to apply that. And I think that is a great quality of a mentor, is to realize they're always sharpening their skills. But one of the things that I know, we have a lot of mentors sitting, watching, looking at, hey, what is this going to look like for me? So Pete, as you think about your first year or even your fifth or your 10th year.
I don't want to think about my first year.
What would you say? How would you define a good mentor?
A good mentor unequivocally loves the mentees before they ever try to lead them. So it's about listening and learning and then leading. I think you can get those out of order and not do a service to mentoring. So listening to the story, asking great questions, learning the individual before you really start leaning in with your experience is important. And there's an element of humility in that. Generally speaking, the mentor at the table with a group or with an individual will be a more experienced person. Hopefully they have wisdom beyond those at the table. That's why they're there. But that doesn't mean humility is not a big part of that equation. And to your point, some of that is choosing to learn. If I go back 15 years to my first mentoring group, I sure would like to do that again. But I only knew what I knew then. And being hungry and continuing to develop the ability to be a practitioner of mentoring requires learning and growing, just like anything else.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know some mentors have a hard time balancing, and would love to get your thoughts on this, the balancing between grace and truth. How do you be the mentor? Then how do you challenge a mentee in the same time? So talk us a little bit about kind of that uncomfortableness that some of these mentors are going to face.
Yeah, you're poking on something that's just reality, right? We all would like to have wonderful, studious mentees that only want to listen and grow. And that's just not the reality. Some of these situations can be more difficult than others. And you're talking about the two correct, we think of them as volume knobs, grace and truth, right? There's only one that's ever been able to go to 10 on both at the same time, and that was Jesus, and we're not him. However, we have to use both volume knobs. And where mentors can get into trouble is when they're using one much more significantly than the other, because it has to be a balance. There are plenty of mentors that are out there that will go real high grace and very little truth and not want to step into the hard, and that doesn't really do a service to the mentee. And at the same time, we've got mentors that'll go way up on the truth meter and stay low on the grace meter, and that doesn't come across as loving, right? So finding that is an important tuning that all of us do. Frankly, it's why a lot of mentors do this in pairs, right? I think about my longtime partner, and he and I both might be more truth than grace people, but we help balance each other out in that. It's an important chemistry to get right. If you think about that like an equalizer on a stereo, I'm aging myself when I say that, I recognize, but pushing those buttons up and down to find the right tuning is important in that equation.
Yeah, one of the things that I know we see so many mentors do, so this is an easy softball question for you, but how do you continue to grow as a mentor? I mean, obviously we've seen mentors who've been mentoring with us for 10, 15 years, but how do you look and say, hey, as you kind of take that first year and continue to grow, how do you kind of grow as a mentor?
Well, one of the things you do as a mentor is you reflect on the experience, right? I've always spent a lot of time at the end of a year spending time with my notes, and in the years that I've done it with a partner, reflecting with my partner what we've learned, what could we have done better. We're very intentional in our final retreats with our mentees to talk about what could we have done better. There's humility in that, asking your own mentees, what could we have done better? And there's a lot of learning that's come in from them being willing to share, hey, as you think about next year's group, turn this dial a little bit, and they're very giving in that regard. So it's taking that and building that into the experience. And the reality is you've got different groups with different personalities every year, and that creates learning for the mentor as well. I can think about groups that were full of extroverts. well, that works really well for me. And I can think of groups that were full of introverts, and that doesn't. And guess what? I have to learn more in that environment than I do with a group of extroverts. And so all of that becomes part of this casserole of learning that gives us the experience over time to be more useful to more people.
That's great. And I think a key insight from this for you is just to make sure you're not doing this alone. I would say engage with us, engage with our community. We have over 25 years of experience with this. We have over 4,000 mentors who have mentored. And so we'll give you plenty of chances to engage with us. So we have calls every other month with our mentors called Mentor Huddle. It gives you a chance to hear from experienced mentors, give you a chance to hear best practices, and really sharpen your skills. And so our hope is that we can walk alongside you and make your experience that more impactful.